Hello again, my dear Exiles, and welcome to a retrospective review. I know it's been a while, but we're back once again with another somewhat underappreciated game. This time, instead of Dark Messiah's swords and sorcery, it's pure rock and roll. We're checking out Doublefine Productions' Brütal Legend. This is a game that, on paper, sounds great. Demon-slaying, guitar-playing action. A star-studded cast that includes the likes of Jack Black, Tim Curry, even rock legends such as Lita Ford and Ozzy Osbourne. These elements wedded to an incredible game world and visual aesthetic where rock and heavy metal are in the blood, the bone, in every strand of DNA and at the core of every atom, all wrapped up in Doublefine's famous sense of humor and writing talent. It should have been a slam dunk. Alas, as we'll see, there are a few big issues that hamstring it before it can reach the finish line. So join me as we venture into and check out Brütal Legend. Before we get started, I just want to issue a quick disclaimer. There are many instances of copyrighted music in this game that play over crucial scenes, during battles, etc. In order to avoid the issues I had with my review of the Demon Slayer movie, in such circumstances, I have done my best to replace said music with royalty-free tracks that either replicate the sound of the music, the vibe of the scene, or ideally, both. Apologies for not being able to present the game in its original form, but I felt like this was the next best step, instead of just muting everything. So, on with the review. To begin with, when I said everything about this game was metal, I meant it. Even the menu. When we first boot up the game, we're greeted by Jack Black leading us into a record store to track down an album by the same name as the game, which naturally is shelved under the heading of Forbidden Metal. He lays it on the counter for us, and upon pressing start, this is what greets us. Not bad, eh? But enough menu scrolling. Let's get to the game already. So, we play as Eddie Riggs, the world's greatest roadie. As the game starts, Eddie is on tour with a band called Cabbage Boy, a tween pop sensation that drives Eddie to tears of frustration and despair every time they get on stage. Like many of us, Eddie feels like a man out of time, like he missed the era of really great music. Luckily for him, he's about to go on a journey. A falling piece of stage architecture lands on him and causes a trickle of blood to drip onto his magical belt buckle. This brings to life the massive monster stage prop that serves as Cabbage Boy's ironic backdrop. Everyone, I'd like you to meet the metal god, the fire beast, Ormagoden. And where Eddie is going, he's top dog. God. As if recognizing a kindred spirit, he reverently places Eddie on the drum riser, which is sort of like an altar if you think about it, and with a mighty roar sends Eddie catapulting into the past, to a land before pop music, before even the greats that Eddie laments having missed out on. A land of metal.
Huh? Ooh.
When Eddie awakens, he's lying on an altar in a strange temple, apparently just in time to interrupt a ritual by some creepy, razor-toothed, skull-faced, sword-wielding monks. He's not the one they're looking for, it seems, and so the game's combat tutorial begins. We have two primary tools with which to kick ass, an axe and an axe. The former is known as the Separator, and it more than lives up to its name. The latter, Clementine, is the source of Eddie's ranged attacks. As mentioned, in the world the game takes place in, rock music is a power unto itself, so playing heavy riffs and searing licks on the guitar causes bolts of lightning to rain down from the sky and gouts of flame to erupt beneath our enemies' feet. If you're like me, a die-hard fan of all things rock and or roll, then this all sounds like a game that was tailor-made for you, right? Well, in some ways it is, but Brütal Legend is a game of two parts. The front half and the latter half of the game are very, very different. For now though, we're going to focus on the better first part of the game. Combat itself is pretty much what you'd expect from a game of this type. You've got basic axe combos which can be upgraded and iterated upon for your melee option, and use Clementine for ranged attacks. However, it's not just regular button mashing that the guitar gets used for. There are also guitar solos, which are a little rhythm-type minigame that can produce various effects. These can be found all over the game world in the form of sacred guitar tabs. Some of these are crucial for finishing the game, some are just useful in battle, and some are just downright bombastic. We can do things like raise relics, buff friendly NPCs in combat, and melt enemy faces. There are other uses too.
Start making a nose shape in your mouth so you can talk about your humanity.
After learning the basic ins and outs of combat, Eddie uses one of his newfound abilities to tumble down the temple's walls. This reveals that he is, in fact, atop a massive mountain of skulls and other assorted bones, and riding up the slope on a strange four-legged combination of a pipe organ, pink velvet sofa, and demonic hellbeast. Someone is coming to see him.
I'm supposed to think you're a nun, but I know you're really some kind of big ugly demon, so let's have it. Aha! I knew it! Big ugly demon.
Wait, I think I heard once that killing nuns is bad luck.
I'd better get out of here.
Having vanquished the battle nun, Eddie hops on the spindle-legged conveyance for a trip down the slope.
Let's see here. Evil.
Dear evil, messed up demon powers of darkness, and unimaginable evil. Please transport me off this awesome corpse pile. I am but a visitor in your strange world, which some would call hellish, but I have to admit, it's kind of badass. By your good graces... I meant evil! Evil graces! Son of a...
At the bottom, we immediately get thrown into a duel with a curiously tough demon monk, who upon shaking off their hood, is revealed to not be a demon at all.
Oh man, don't tell me I've been slaying hot girls this whole time.
The axe. So you come for it as well.
No, but these guys jumped me and... Hang on. And it was just sitting there, so...
This is Ophelia, voiced by the inimitable Jennifer Hale, FemShep for all you BioWare fans. If you know your Shakespeare, that name should give you a hint that maybe her story isn't necessarily going to be a happy one. Introductions are made, and a glance out a nearby gate reveals an oncoming demon horde. Eddie and Ophelia are somewhat at a loss as to how they're going to survive, when Eddie suddenly has a brainstorm.
What have you done?
Created beauty by simply rocking, that's all.
The decorations around a nearby altar just so happen, with a little spit and polish, to fit together into one badass ride. This, as Eddie dubs it, is the Deuce, or...
I call it the Druid Plow. Let me show you how it works. What you do, you slam it into goo, hoo, hoo, hello.
And it'll be our main method of getting from A to B to R&R in the game's rather too big open world. The Deuce is another major mechanic, alongside the Separator and Clementine. We can upgrade her with various guns and side weapons, paint jobs, and so forth. Considering the amount of time spent in the driver's seat, it's important that you learn to love her the way Eddie does. The game world is, after all, quite big. Some might even say too big. I am one of those some. It's got that feeling of a lot of empty space with not much to occupy it. Sure, there are plenty of awesome things to look at, a few mini-games and side quests we can partake in, but for the most part, you feel very small in a very big space, and not in a good way. Also, there's no fast travel. I realize this isn't a modern game with all the requisite appurtenances and quality of life features, but it is a 7th generation game. And I feel like that stuff, fast travel and other such conveniences were pretty common, even back then.
This is much better.
We need to reach the bridge before they shut the feeding area gates.
Feeding area? What are they feeding?
If we get there fast enough, you might not need to find out.
Anyways, back to the present. With the Deuce constructed, Ophelia hops in, and we take a hell-bent-for-leather ride down from the temple, druid plowing through the aforementioned demon horde, and getting a bit of an introductory lore dump from Ophelia.
Is that why you've come? To join us and fight for the liberation of humanity?
I don't really know. Haven't really thought about it yet, but,
This eventually drops us into a huge, circular arena, with a gate that stands between us and the world at large. So, we've had basic combat, basic traversal, and a couple of mini-boss fights so far. Let's see. If I know my genre tropes right, what should be coming next is...
Sorry. Did you know those dudes?
Yep, it's tutorial boss time. Said boss is a gigantic, heavy metal-flavored Georgia O'Keeffe nightmare that does its level best to smash Eddie into paste with its, face? While we zip around the arena in the Deuce, we wait for it to get its tongue stuck in the ground, at which point Eddie can either run it over, or hop out and get to work on it with the Separator. This thing is never named in-game, but according to the wiki it's called the Lamprey, which I guess makes sense.
Jackpot! You'll never French kiss again.
What's French kissing?
It's,
The, gate's open.
What? Oh,
The gate. Ah! What's that? I couldn't hear you. It's like you got a lisp or something.
Over here, you foul and rotten worm.
Decapitation!
there. It is dead. And you, I will now teach you. Hang on. I shall now teach you of French kissing.
Wow!
You like the car?
Yeah! I can't wait to show it to Lars. Bladehenge is the center of the human resistance movement.
Aha! Army headquarters, huh?
Well, right now the army is just Lars, his sister, and me.
What? Come on.
With the lamprey vanquished, it's on to somewhere called Bladehenge, which is the nearby landmark that Ophelia and her comrades call home, that looks like something straight off a heavy metal album cover. One of the keys to the game's aesthetic as stated by the dev team was that they wanted everything in the game to be something you could easily imagine seeing on the cover of a heavy metal album. Let's see how that worked out. Upon arriving at Bladehenge, we're introduced to two other members of the game's primary supporting cast, Lars and Lita Halford.
Oh, hello.
Don't mind Lita. She's Lars's little sister. A little high-strung.
Clearly named for Rob Halford, legendary vocalist of Judas Priest, and Lita Ford, guitarist for the Runaways, both of whom actually show up later in the game, voicing a couple of other characters.
So let me get this straight. These performers, they don't even have to tune their own instruments?
Between the two of them, plus Ophelia, and now Eddie, they comprise the entirety of the rebellion against Emperor Daviculus and the forces of the Tainted Coil.
Daviculus, they say it was the fire beast Omogodon himself?
No. Far, far worse than me. It was Sakoriya. I can smell her blood. The season of pain is upon us.
But why has she returned now? What does she want?
War. Finally.
Yeah, remember when I said Tim Curry was in this game? This is him. Those creepy fang druids and battle nuns? Those are part of his army, the Tainted Coil. There are a total of 4 factions in the game. Well, 3.5 really, each based around a particular vibe and genre of music. And the vibe that the Tainted Coil is putting out is, without question, "Please, master, let me lick your boots." Anyways, once Eddie introduces himself to Lars and Lita, Lars explains to us the difficulties facing the rebellion forces, namely that there are no forces to rebel with. Eddie, using his typical can-do attitude, makes the obvious point that if they don't have an army, then they should just go get one.
General Lionwhite has taken away most of our young men to toil in his mines.
And he's taken our women to serve as slaves in his decadent pleasure tower.
Well, let's go get him back.
After traversing some suitably brutal landscapes, we wind up at a mine known as the Crushing Pit.
So this is it. The Crushing Pit.
Hundreds of our strongest young men toiling their lives away, like their fathers and grandfathers before them, given no tools, forced to break solid rock with nothing but their own thick skulls. Society has no use for them, so they stay underground. What do you do with a bunch of kids who don't know how to do anything but bang their heads all day long?
You start a revolution, Lars.
While Eddie might be a great organizer in his own right, as we'll soon see, he's still a roadie at heart, and recognizes that Lars is the true-born leader, the one destined to hold the crown. A look at Lars's sword reveals a unique piece of guitar tablature, which, when run through Clementine, gives us the battle cry solo. Perfect! A rallying call that we can sound to cut through the fog of oppression, stifling the souls of these tender youths. As we venture into the mine and get our first look at the young men who are to form the backbone of our army-to-be, we rip the battle cry solo and get the attention of some nearby miners who are all too eager to drop what they're doing and follow Eddie to rescue their comrades.
Oh. What is that sound?
It's a devil screaming. It's an angel singing. It is the pounding of creation's hammer upon the anvil of time.
It's fucking awesome.
It's called heavy metal, and it's the real reason you should bang your heads, not for that guy.
Uniquely situated by virtue of their physiques, these staunch lads don't mine with picks and hammers, but instead by banging their heads into it. They are, in a word, headbangers. This mission serves a dual purpose: to garner the first of our forces and to teach us the basics of commanding allied units.
When I do this, it means you gotta follow me, okay? Okay, let's try it.
It's cool that we can command friendly NPCs. Usually in this type of third-person action game, you're all on your lonesome.
Now this time we're gonna mix it up. I'll defend this area, while you dudes go kick the shit out of that statue over there.
Yeah!
Let's do it.
Okay, so when I do this, you go completely nut shit on whatever I'm pointing at, okay? Get ready?
Once we demolish the idols of General Lion White situated around the mine and vanquish Mittens the Overseer in a mini-boss fight, we now have the beginnings, however humble, of an army. In honor of the unique way our new recruits have of bringing the pain, Eddie decides to name the freshly founded rebellion after them.
Listen up! In honor of you guys, we're calling this new army Ironhead. With an E on the end, so people know we're not messing around.
Ironhead.
I like it.
I don't get it.
With that done, the game begins to open up a bit. We're free to proceed directly to the next few story missions, or begin roaming the land of metal undertaking side quests. We'll discuss those in due course, but for now, let's continue with the plot and see what Ophelia's been up to, while we were freeing the beginnings of our headbanging horde. Upon returning to Bladehenge, we find that Ophelia has done exactly what Lars was afraid she'd do, gone and got herself gravely wounded. While we do have an army to build, making sure she stays alive clearly takes priority, so it's off to see a nearby medicine man / shaman / healer, who goes by the rather paradoxical name of Killmaster. Is this ringing any bells? If you know your music icons, it should, because it's legendary Motorhead frontman Lemmy Kilmister himself. May he rest in peace. He resides atop a secluded rise, surrounded by his cadre of bassists and his, pets. After we scale the path up to the Killmaster's pad, we set Ophelia down in his healing cradle of bass amps, and he gets to work.
Are you fighting Lion White? Why didn't you say so? I hate that bastard. Let's see now.
What's happening?
People are pissing me off for one.
Is she dead?
Not yet, but soon.
Unfortunately, her wounds are too grievous for his regenerative rifts to have any noticeable effect. What's to be done? The Killmaster suggests that a heavier gauge of bass strings might amplify the power of his mending melodies, so it falls to Eddie to go and find some. Now, where in this world might we be able to find something like naturally occurring guitar strings? It's here that the game performs a minor miracle. If you've watched my Dark Messiah review, and if not, then you should as soon as you finish watching this video, you know that I'm an arachnophobe of the highest order. Even the thought of a large spider makes me seize up in terror. So, while filming, it was with extreme trepidation that I approached the lair of the Metal Queen. Great, I thought. Another game leaning on the giant spider trope. Luckily, the game's cartoonish aesthetic came to my rescue. These are arachnids I can actually stomach. After traversing the canyons leading to the heart of spider territory, Eddie finds himself facing off against a titanic, 8-legged beast, the Metal Queen herself. Thus ensues our second boss fight. To make her vulnerable, we have to use Clementine to zap her until she staggers, at which point her, brain case pops open, and Eddie can do some proper damage. Upon vanquishing her, the heavy gauge bass strings are ours. Time is of the essence. Ophelia is no doubt fading fast, so Eddie once again harvests some naturally occurring machine components to construct a vehicle, and, sitting astride our new steed, we haul ass back to the Killmaster's mountain hideaway with our prize.
Nice. Thick as a baby's arm.
We're just in time, it seems. Equipped with the new strings, the Killmaster is able to play a restorative refrain of sufficient strength to heal Ophelia's wounds and steal her back from the brink of death. Now, at last, we can find out where she was and what she was doing that wound up with her getting so badly injured. Before we leave, however, Eddie invites Lemmy and his cohort of badass bassists to join Ironhead, which he readily accepts.
You know, we could really use guys like you and your men in our band. I mean, army.
I ain't much of a joiner, but I'll do anything if it pisses off Lion White.
With the army, on an even keel once more, we return to Ironhead HQ.
Nice Thunderhawk, man. You make that badass heel-mobile yourself?
Hey, you about done?
Let me check that out.
Back at the old henge, Eddie inquires as to how Ophelia got herself dropped on death's doorstep, and she tells us to meet her over at a place called the Razor Fields, if we want to see what she was up to.
But please, don't tell Lars, okay?
Upon arriving, the details of her clandestine mission become clear, rescuing and then arming her sisters-in-arms. Apparently this group of Razor Girls, as she's dubbed them, are all fugitives from General Lion White's pleasure tower. Ophelia, not content to let the General have his way, helped them escape, and is now dead set on getting them locked and loaded to join the Ironhead war effort. And so, we find out why the Razor Fields are so named. They're home to a unique breed of bacon, the Razorfire boar. It seems that once properly dissected, the pig's innards can be repurposed into a potent firearm. What follows is the first of a couple of less than fun mini-games in which we have to drive around and herd animals to a specific location. This first one isn't as bad as the one we'll have to deal with later, but it is still kind of a pain in the ass. Eddie hops on the back of the Killmaster's Thunderhog, and the pair of them get to work rounding up the boars so that Ophelia and her girls can
rip out the gizzards, flush the chamber, and ream the barrel. Hey, get busy. We need a lot more.
Right.
All right, I think we got it. Let's clean these up. We got bigger pigs to slaughter.
With the Razor Girls now sufficiently armed, we return to Bladehenge to see the fruits of our labor. These ladies are formidable indeed. Between the Headbangers for melee, Razor Girls for fire support, and Thunderhog bases for healing, plus Lars at the head flanked by Lita and Ophelia, with Eddie organizing the whole thing, we're starting to have the makings of an actual army here. However, just as we're sitting back and relishing the prospect of taking the fight to Lion White, a long-haired, mustachioed man grabs our attention.
What's happening?
General Lion White's army has been spotted on the move, headed this direction.
What's the plan?
The plan? The plan is victory.
Lars, this isn't a fortress. How can we stand our ground here?
I can build you something quick. Trust me, man, we can put on a hell of a show in a hurry. Right on!
It seems that while we've been rallying and recruiting our forces, General Lion White hasn't been idle. Advancing over the plain are Lion White's forces, a crude hair metal style imitation of Ironhead's noble classic rock conscripts. This is the poison type of hair metal, by the way, not the cool Motley Crue kind. And as the good people of Ironhead see it, emblematic of everything that's wrong with this world. Eddie is unfazed and tells Lars to rendezvous outside of Bladehenge, where he's apparently got a plan to hold off the approaching hordes. And so we come to it at last. The not-so-great part of the game. The stage battles. Or, to put it another way, real-time strategery.
Hey, who we ambushing? Bad guys. Wanna help?
Until now, Brütal Legend has been a serviceable third-person hack and slash and explore with a smattering of very light RPG elements. It's no Devil May Cry, but the combat works well enough to shore up the game's main selling point, getting to explore this incredible heavy metal-based world that Doublefine has crafted. But somewhere along the way, I feel like the devs got a little mixed up. I don't know what the deal was. Maybe there were two different teams working on the game simultaneously, and they just decided to throw the baby in with the bathwater. Maybe they were forced by publisher oversight to change tacks in the middle of development. Hell, maybe they just couldn't decide on what type of game they wanted to make. Regardless, there are two distinct types of gameplay that make up the core of Brütal Legend, and we're about to be introduced to the second one. As Lion White's forces approach, Eddie and Mangus construct a stage in short order, using the logic that,
hey man, where I'm from, this guitar makes noises. Here, it blows stuff up. So I can't wait to see what a full-on rock show does.
I don't, disagree. And obviously he's got the right idea because it actually works. Narratively/conceptually anyway. In practice, I think these RTS-type battles are far and away the game's weakest point. Why? Well, let's hop genres for a second and talk differences. In a proper RTS, you view the battlefield from an omniscient bird's-eye perspective, being able to zip from one side of the map to the other, one moment handling resource gathering and training new units, the next commanding your forces on the battlefield, moving them around to suit your tactics and carry out your battle plans. If there's an emergency, say you get a warning that your base is under attack or you're running out of resources, it takes but a moment to shift your perspective over to the problem area and sort it out. You, personally, are not responsible for defeating enemy units or constructing new buildings. Once started, these tasks are automated. You have a lot of responsibilities to juggle, so it's important that the game is designed in such a way as to support multitasking. In Brütal Legend's stage battles, however, you're stuck in the same perspective as you are the rest of the time, about 10 feet behind Eddie. So, when you want to go check on how things are going on the opposite side of the battlefield, maybe you're worried about that lightly defended resource structure, you have to physically travel over there, leaving whatever you were doing unattended. While you can select specific units and command them to move, attack, and defend, it's not with pinpoint precision, and it is a massive pain and hardly intuitive. Besides, it's not like you can assign them to groups or have multiple queues of units in production simultaneously. All you have are a couple of basic commands, which only function in a nebulous, undefined radius around Eddie. This means that if you want your army to do something, you have to personally escort them while they do it. If you have multiple groups going simultaneously, then you have to physically hop back and forth between them to issue commands to each one. Are you starting to see the multitude of problems here? New units, which are selected and queued up via radial menu, pop out of your main stage when they're ready, meaning you have to periodically run, drive, and later fly to the ass end of the map to gather up a new group of them in order to run them back across the map to however far you'd managed to push with the last group before you can continue to make progress. All of these issues compound to ensure that there's really only one viable tactic. Stack up the biggest clump of units you can and bull rush your enemy's main stage in the hope that you can knock it down before they take out all of your troops. So it's not really real-time strategy at all. It's just a series of really elaborate escort missions, overloaded with needlessly complex mechanics. And we all know how much gamers love escort missions. I really do like this game, I promise. but I like it in spite of the whole strategy aspect. The fact that the latter 2/3 of the game hinge on these big battles is a real problem. I can think of a number of ways they could have made this whole thing better. If it were like a MOBA, where the units and their tasks were administered automatically, for example, that would be one solution. And it's not like other console RTS games are automatically bad. Games like Halo Wars, and even StarCraft 64, prove that if you design it around the limitations of a controller, you can absolutely make an RTS work on console. There are so many ways this could have been handled better, but the way it wound up, it just feels like you're being asked to play two subpar games simultaneously, rather than one good one. Anyway, back to the story. As Eddie and Mangus are in the process of making sure everything is shipshape and ready to fend off the incoming attack, Eddie notices a strange phenomenon out in front of the stage. A torrent of spectral figures erupting from the ground.
Glowing people?
Check. Wait, where's the button for glowing people?
The gang gathers round this green geyser to inspect it, and after contemplating it for a moment, Eddie realizes what the deal is. They're the lifeblood that powers the music.
They do seem to have an energy about them.
They're fans. They've come for the show. And yes, with the energy of the fans, we can do anything.
After musing on the legacy of the fans as a source of power and strength for the ancient titans that once bestrode the land, a merch booth is erected to channel the torrent of fanergy, if you will, to the stage.
Yeah! They're definitely our fans now.
This is what it's all about, guys, the fans. Be true to them, and we can never go wrong. All they need from us? Rock. Oh, and merchandise.
Quick, Mangus, we need to build a merch booth.
So, we've got a stage, we've got fans, we've got forces, and we've got the game's second enemy faction, the hair metal militia, bearing down on us. Time to get to work. As we're inspecting the troops, Lionwhite shows up to throw down the gauntlet and introduce his own Mook militia. Christ, look at that hair. Those pants. I'll stick with Ironhead's digs, thank you. And apparently he can use his hair to fly? Huh. I bet that would be super useful in terms of navigating the battlefield quickly. Anyways, it's time to rock and fucking roll.
Incoming uglies! 3 o'clock!
Once we dispatch the militia forces and send Lionwhite's initial assault packing, the general calls for a retreat and flies away, mic stand tucked between his legs. Lars takes the opportunity to deliver a rousing speech to the troops.
Pits, waiting for good fortune to trickle down to us. But our days of waiting are over. We will not sit here and let Lionwhite decide what happens next. We will gather up this great army and take it on the road. We will march on Lionwhite and free every man, woman, and child in that city. And then, we will bring it crashing to the ground!
Now that we've been introduced to the second of the two types of gameplay, it's time to pack up the stage, the troops, and get on the road. This is, after all, what Eddie does best. Organizing and taking a band on tour. From nowhere, Mangus seems to have produced a giant tour bus, big enough to fit the Ironhead stage and all of our forces. Quite a neat trick. Next stop, Battersmith, the headquarters of the hair metal militia. We're bringing the fight to Lionwhite.
Ready to go?
Just a few more hours.
You got 20 seconds. It's time to go.
I only need 10. Let's go!
So, we drive all afternoon and through the night, while fending off hordes of S&M imps on choppers to eventually arrive at the blasted heath outside the passage to Lionwhite's sanctum, the gates of Battersmith. In short order, a stage is constructed, and battle is about to be joined when a new wrinkle presents itself. Fan leeches. These giant, disgusting creatures descend from on high to plop themselves down on top of fan geysers, sucking up all those delicious green souls. Honestly, it doesn't change much. We just have to direct our forces to whack them a bunch and banish them before we can construct a merch booth in their place. The crew is suitably scandalized by their appearance. Sorry guys, but they'll be a feature of these big battles from here on out. Before the clash can commence, Eddie's back pain flares up again. This time, though, it's to introduce an iron to the aforementioned wrinkle. It turns out that Lionwhite isn't the only one who could take to the air. Our boy Eddie's got wings too, and he's looking a little less than human, what with that reddened, scaly skin and evil yellow eyes. That seems a bit portentous, although what of I'm sure I couldn't say. The group is concerned for Eddie's health, but the approaching hair metal militia forces say that there's no time to worry about that right now. Before we get to handle the shiny new air-capable Mr. Riggs, we get one last ominous aside from Ophelia.
Don't worry about me, I've always kind of wanted wings. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to dream about it all the time.
I hope my parents were wrong about this.
Hey, everybody! Look over here a second. I'm gonna do a trick. Woohoo! Yeah!
Now that we're equipped with our new shoulder blade extensions, getting around the battlefield is a lot easier. It doesn't entirely ameliorate the plethora of issues with these big battles, not by a long shot, but at least it helps. In between driving off the leeches and making runs at the enemy fortifications, we unfortunately also have to evade cannon fire from the Battersmith battlements. Luckily, we can actually use the leeches for cover. Guess they are good for something besides sucking up our fans.
Wish you wore a bib, because now you got face all over your shirt.
Once Eddie finishes battering down the gates of Battersmith, we get another visit from the good general. He's just stopping by to do a little human resourcing. In this case, effecting an outplacement of his buff, big-handed bouncers. Luckily for them, and us, they're willing to swap loyalties and throw their lot in with Ironhead. Eddie demonifies himself, and we press onwards into the passage that leads to Lionwhite's front door. The aptly named Cleave of the Impaler. After Lars demonstrates why it's so named, and a timely save by one of our new friends, who deserves a big hand for his heroism, we're left with the question of how exactly we're supposed to make it past these guard towers. Enter Eddie's brothers in amps, the Roadies. They're another of Ophelia's many pals, and like all good roadies, they're great at remaining unseen while going about their jobs. They've been working with our best gal to help smuggle the Razor Girls out of Lionwhite's pleasure tower. Combined with their massive speaker stacks, they're also perfect for demolishing buildings. Say, for instance, a series of guard towers, blocking our way through the cleave to Lionwhite's fortress. Just one problem. We're a little short on amplifiers. They don't exactly grow on trees, you know.
And they're here just in the nick of time. They're gonna get us through this canyon, but first they're gonna need some monster amps.
But this is the land of metal, you say. Surely there must be naturally occurring amps somewhere.
You mean, like those of the Screaming Wall?
Not sure, but I like how that sounds.
I'm not gonna lie. This thing is probably my favorite geological feature in the game. Unfortunately, Eddie can only fly during the big set-piece battles, so let's hop in the Deuce and zip over there to harvest some ample amplification. Speaking of traversing the landscape, let's talk about some of the things Eddie can stop, find, and do while making his way from mission to mission. Scattered across the land of metal, there are a myriad bunch of landmarks, objects, side quests, and interactables. First and foremost in terms of importance, there are guitar tabs, the literal music of the gods, scribed upon stone monuments for the worthy to find and put to good use. These are where we learn all of the aforementioned guitar solos. Some are crucial to game progress, but most of them are optional. Then, coming in at a close second in terms of importance, we have the motor forges, which are how we get in touch with Ozzy Osbourne.
The Guardian of Metal welcomes you.
This is our way of gaining strength, new abilities, attack combos, cosmetics for Eddie and the car, and so on. We purchase these using a currency called fire tributes, which can be garnered from just about every source in the game. In order to earn ourselves some fire tributes, we can free bound dragons, raise buried relics,
Come on, don't be shy.
execute daredevil stunts, view legends of the past, scope out scenic vistas, ambush enemy forces.
We heard a bunch of enemy scouts were gonna cruise through here soon.
So we're hiding out. We're gonna ambush them.
Wait, so you're hiding out by lighting this big fire?
Defend key choke points.
Up behind you, sir.
So squeezy.
Win breakneck races.
At ya.
Uh-oh. Time to teach you another lesson. I'll try to go easy on you.
And of course, win battles and progress the story.
You dudes are with me.
All of these actions serve to please the metal gods, and thus earn us the right, and the currency, to purchase newer, better, and more stylish ways of bringing the pain to our enemies' forces. In addition to upgrades, weapon modifiers, and cosmetics, we can also purchase things like concept art and other sundry goodies.
Just a little extra something deadly. These really help with tailgaters. We can buff out the scratches while we're at it.
Every time we find a motor forge, Eddie busts out the Relic Razor solo to free it from its earthly confines, allowing him to drive down into the vast, magma-filled caverns beneath the lands of metal.
You look fucking terrible.
Wait, what do I have to do for a fire tribute?
Please the fucking gods of metal, man. Figure it out.
Right, okay. I'll be back soon, covered in metal god love.
Oh, God.
Where this becomes problematic, like large swaths of the game's back half, is that there's only one single motor forge once we leave the beginning half of the map. So if we're about to face down the final battle, and want to spend some fire tributes to purchase some new combo attacks that we may have neglected to pick up, or swap weapons on the deuce, we've got to schlep all the way over to it from wherever we might be, in some of the game's most dangerous areas. Anyways, back to the story.
All right, idiots.
All right, careful with those. The feedback from them is deadly. Lift with your knees, not your backs.
You thought of everything, didn't you?
Well, I wanted to make sure you got back before your boyfriend got jealous.
Oh, don't say stupid stuff.
Hey, it's pretty clear you love Lars.
Of course I do. He's a great man. Not that hard to look at either. His chest... He's like a brother to me.
After returning from the Screaming Wall with our harvest of amplifiers, time to make it through the cleave and bring the fight directly to Lionwhite. We direct the roadies using their natural stealth abilities to destroy the towers blocking the path forwards. Man, these guys are really useful. After clearing the way for the rest of the army, we find ourselves on the receiving end of some grade C sass from the general. This also comes with a bit of a startling revelation from Ophelia. Apparently her parents were part of something called the Black Tear Rebellion.
Trust me, they think I'm a tear drinker.
Why do they think that?
Because my parents fought in the Black Tear Rebellion. It was a long time ago, but now none of them will ever really trust me, no matter how much I do for our cause.
While the game does an extremely poor job of explaining what that is, and what it means in the context of the overall story, this does at least explain why Lita doesn't trust her. Eddie entrusts her with a necklace given to him by his father, the only thing he has that belonged to his mother, as far as he knows anyway. With the drama seemingly squared away, and a noble declaration from Lars...
No one shall kill Lionwhite this day but I.
It's time to once again take the stage and put Lionwhite down for good. As we head into the grounds of the General's Pleasure Palace, we see just how large he's been living this whole time. Extremely. By this point, it should be pretty clear what the course of action is. After all, there's only one way that Ironhead does things. Rock and fucking roll.
What's the holdup?
What holdup? I was waiting for you.
Dude, you were supposed to set up the stage an hour ago. Lars is really mad.
Uh-oh. Hey, what's the holdup? Lars is really mad at you guys.
We talk to Mangus, the stage is constructed, and battle is joined. Or, actually, not just yet, it seems. It turns out that Lionwhite thinks he's been doing humanity a favor by protecting us from the evil Emperor Diviculus, leader of the Tainted Coil, when all he's really doing is using that as an excuse to keep us down, under his thumb. Or his heel. I don't know, pick one.
We can be beautiful, and that we can be profitable. I do it to protect you people from Diviculus. I am the only thing standing between you and him. And what do you give me in return? Grief.
The powerful music of the past. You almost made us forget about it. Almost. Today we shall hear it again. The music of a free people. From the singing of our blades through your flesh, to the pounding of our fists into your skull. For the honor of Bladehenge, for the freedom of its people, and for the glory of its metal!
Okay, now battle is joined. We clear the leeches from the fan geysers and slowly but surely make our progress to the top of the battlefield, putting Lionwhite ever more on the back foot. After finally wrecking his stage, the General's fate is sealed by his own vanity.
Get back inside right now!
While this may be a major victory, we still have a ways to go. As Lars says, the General was but a puppet, the servant of a greater evil. We may have ended the reign of glam metal, but in the lands beyond, the ball-gagged forces of the Tainted Coil await us. As much as it would be great to take the time to party it up and celebrate our victory, we have to pack up and press onwards down the great highway.
Once and for all.
Woo! Hey, boss, you coming to the after party?
Got some bad news for you, buddy.
Ready to hit the road?
The problem is that something already hit it. Lion White's house.
It turns out that in defeating Lion White, we accidentally sealed the way forwards. Eddie and crew prepare to clear the blockage, despite Lita's misgivings. Apparently we're headed somewhere known as Fire Baron country, something Mangus isn't looking forward to.
Baron country. I ain't going up there.
Oh, those old pyromaniacs are long gone. They left the mountain as soon as General Poodlehair showed up.
Trust me, they'll be back. When we least expect it, they'll sneak up on us from behind. Oh, man.
Just as Lars is waxing poetic about his hope for the future, an ominous shadow looms overhead. It's Diviculus, here to check up on his protege. The group takes cover, and we see the Emperor investigating the scene of Lion White's defeat, calling out to someone by the name of...
Sikoria? Why?
Whoever this mystery Sikoria is, apparently her mission was to spy on the human resistance. Lita thinks she knows what's up, seeing Diviculus's monologue as proof positive about her suspicions of Ophelia as another tainted coil puppet. The Emperor says he can smell her blood on one of Ophelia's blades, which seems to shake even Eddie's faith. Eddie, my man, this is Ophelia we're talking about. You just promised to trust her forever. What are you thinking? Before we have a chance to address this issue, however, Lars decides to try and take the Emperor down, here and now.
These are free men and women, and they no longer serve you or anyone else.
Do not dare to speak to me, you insect!
Oh, Lars, you sweet, beautiful fool. I'm sad to say, this ends predictably.
It seems I had less to worry about than I thought.
Lars!
My little sister. You must take care of her.
Get him to the bus. You son of a...
Before Eddie and company can take revenge, Diviculus summons down a massive horror and a rain of fire, which begins destroying Lion White's pleasure grounds. It's time to leave. And fast. Everybody else hops back on the bus, while Eddie and Ophelia jump at the deuce and book it as the forces of the tainted coil rain down around them. After finally escaping the collapsing palace, the pair find Lita waiting for them on the road. It seems as if she blames Ophelia for Lars's death.
He can't protect you anymore. No one can.
Lita.
She sold us out. Told them we were coming.
Lita, why would I do that?
Because of the black water still thick in your veins.
Claiming that she did it because of the sea of black tears. While we haven't had that explained to us just yet, clearly it's got Lita up in arms. However, before she can deliver the finishing blow, Eddie stops her and says he needs to talk to Ophelia alone to figure out exactly what's going on. What follows is a misunderstanding of catastrophic proportions, with repercussions that echo throughout the latter third of the game. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think the story was just getting going? Yeah, we're already over halfway done. I was going to mention it elsewhere, but I couldn't find a suitably elegant place to shoehorn it in, so it goes here. Narrative pacing is also an area where Brütal Legend falls regrettably short. The story is both shorter than you think it's going to be, and shorter than it really ought to be. There are so many things that go either poorly explained, or just glossed over entirely. The game kinda relies on the player finding a bunch of optional content to reveal the backstory, and understand what's actually going on, especially where the Sea of Black Tears and its ancient Black Tear Rebellion are concerned.
Die! Ugh! Ugh! Will you not let me avenge my brother?
Let you? I'll help you avenge your brother, but first I need to talk to Ophelia. Alone.
Don't, Edward. She'll manipulate you, like she did with Lars.
What did he mean about your mission?
What?
To spy on us. Diviculus.
He wasn't talking about me.
Oh, right, Sikoria. So who's that?
I can't tell you.
Can't tell me? What are you hiding from us?
I was doing it for you.
Doing what? Leading us into a trap?
You said you'd trust me.
I did. And in return, you kept secrets from me. And now Lars is dead.
What do I care if you turn your back on me? Just like the rest of them. You're just like the rest of them.
After leaving Ophelia sobbing by the side of the road, Eddie and Lita hop in the Deuce and drive south towards the aforementioned Fire Baron country to rejoin the others at a place called Death's Clutch. Oddly enough, despite it being Fire Baron country, things get progressively icier the further south we go.
Eddie, please. I want to see if my brother is... Mangus, the Fire Barons are long gone.
But, if they ever came back?
We'd be burned alive. Fierce warriors, the Fire Barons.
Uh-huh.
As we arrive at the Ironhead camp, we find the Killmaster attempting to revive Lars in his healing cradle. Unfortunately, it doesn't look good. With Lita sobbing over his broken body, we say goodbye to our valiant leader. Farewell, Lars. You were too good, too beautiful for this heavy metal world. And so, time passes. So, as we've got a few months worth of time to kill while we wait for the narrative time skip to resolve, let's take a minute to go over the lore of the Lands of Metal. These are available to us via lore stones that are scattered throughout the world. They are, however, entirely optional content, which is kind of frustrating, seeing as the story details unveiled in them are, I would argue, essential to understanding what's going on with the game's story. Without them, the narrative feels like a complete and utter mess, and even once we have everything in order, it still doesn't explain how certain characters know things when they do, or how some things came to be. First, let's get the old creation myth out of the way. In the beginning, as they say, there was nothing but utter darkness, inhabited by the first ones. These little guys were hideous creatures. So hideous, in fact, that they preferred to live in darkness, so that they wouldn't have to be reminded of just how hideous they were. Then, suddenly, light! The fire beast Ormagodon appeared, soaring through the sky and bringing light to the world. This forced the first ones out into the open, and they despised him for it. And so they began to plot and scheme to think of a way to murder the fire beast and plunge the world back into eternal darkness. The first ones drew their sustenance from Madronal, the teated tree of drinking, the sap of which flowed up from a place beneath the earth, where dwelt a being of pure innocence and beauty, Aetulia. Down underground, she sang to the tree, and her perfect, beautiful song became the nourishing essence of Madronal's sap. One day, however, the most vicious of all the First Ones, managed to find and capture her, forcing her to sing for him alone. This granted him power beyond reckoning, and so he crowned himself king. Using his newly captured songbird, the king of the First Ones had Aetulia sing out into the sky to lure Ormagodon down to the ground, where the First Ones tried to douse his flames with mud. Before they could smother him, however, the fire beast decided to deny them the satisfaction, and let out a scream of such power and rage that he exploded like a dying star. In dying, he filled the world with rich elements, his steel flesh veining the ground with ore, his fire coalescing into the sun, his blood the oceans, which flooded out and drowned the First Ones, and finally, his death cry, so loud that it continues to echo throughout the world even to the present day. Though he may have died, the fire beast lives on in the elements that he left behind. Fire, blood, noise, and metal. Next came the Age of Titans. These massive demigods were formed from the strength and speed of the fire beast, wedded to the beauty of Aetulia, and they made use of the gifts Ormagodon left behind to found their society. But they were not alone, for out of the oceans of blood came the demonic Tainted Coil, who were all that remained of the First Ones, tempered by the searing rage of Ormagodon. The Titans, however, took pity on them, adopting them as pets. They hid the Coil's hideousness beneath restraints, which the demons endured because more than anything, they loved their masters, and wanted to emulate the Titans' perfect forms. In using the fire beast's metal flesh to craft weapons, armor, and vehicles, the Titans found that the very essence of Ormagodon's speed was contained within the metal itself. This let them build things such as swords so swift that they flew through the air with invisible speed, and chariots so fast that they needed no beasts to pull them. These massive hot rods served as rolling temples to Ormagodon, and as they roared with the power of the fire beast's death cry, they carried the Titan civilization across the face of the world. Meanwhile, in the darkness beneath the earth, Aetulia was left alone to reflect on her role in the death of the majestic fire beast. So lonely and guilt-ridden was she, that she cried an ocean of black tears, the essence of pure sorrow, and eventually crumbled away to dust. Anyone who drinks of her tears gains a measure of her power, but also becomes cursed with her grief, leading to madness and the impulse to destroy. Having seen what became of those who drank from the black tears, the Titans decided to drop a mountain on top of it, and thus seal it away from temptation forever. Having thus protected themselves from the lure of the Sea of Black Tears, the Titans turned towards industry and the advancement of their society. This led to the creation of a new form of music. It had the speed and power of Ormagodon, tempered by the pure beauty of Aetulia's song. The words they sang told the story of the world's creation and of the Titans' place in it. This anthem of the people came to be known as heavy metal. The Titans continued to grow and progress for millennia, eventually achieving omniscience and ultimately spiritual perfection. Having done all that they could in the mortal plane, they rose up into the sky, becoming gods and leaving the world behind. The last thing they did before doing so was to carve instructions for all of their grand designs into the skin of the world, so that all who came after them might someday follow in their footsteps. The tainted coil, now that their beloved masters had achieved apotheosis, found themselves alone in a world they did not understand, for they were unable to read the Titan's instructions. They were too consumed by their anger and sadness at having been abandoned. So they spread far and wide, searching the world over for any sign of the Titan's presence. But all they came across was a single toenail, which they took as an object of worship. Using profane rituals, they attempted to reanimate it and thus revive the race of Titans. But this only resulted in the creation of a pale imitation of their masters' perfect forms. So it was that humankind came into being, their very existence seeming to mock the tainted coil's failure, and the demons developed an immediate and all-consuming hatred of their creations. The coil enslaved humanity, subjugating them for an age, until finally one emerged who could lead them. This man was named Ragnarok, and he roused the humans into rebellion. Unlike the coil, he was able to read the Titan's instructions, and taught the others how to make weapons, vehicles, and clothes from the natural world. The rebellion so alarmed the demons that they opened the Sea of Black Tears, knowing its siren call would lure the humans to drink from it. Some humans did indeed partake of the dark waters, gaining great strength and calling themselves the Black Tear Rebellion. However, the madness endemic to the Tears caused humanity to break out in a civil war that all but culled their efforts to break free from the tainted coil's rule. Ragnarok was the sole survivor, and he decided that if he could not defeat the coil in battle, then at least he could behead the serpent. And so he set off on a quest to assassinate the coil's emperor. Meanwhile, the coil decided to secure their victory for all eternity and take back the secrets of the Titans. They performed a decade-long orgiastic ceremony with the intent of sending their emperor, Socoria, into the future, to the age of modern man, where she might steal the knowledge of immortals back from the humans. With her, they sent a small idol of Ormagoden, designed to return the bearer to the age of metal if presented with an offering of blood. Along with her came a small group of human slaves, one of whom was the disguised Ragnarok. There's a bit more to tell, but we'll get to it when it's relevant. For now, let's go and rejoin Eddie and the rest of Ironhead, who have been cooling their heels for the past 3 months on the frozen slopes of Death's Clutch. And oh dear, it appears that we're just in time as something wicked this way comes. Something dire something dreadful, something covered in eyeshadow. We come under attack from the third enemy faction, the Drowning Doom. Wonder if they could be at all related to the Sea of Black Tears. Something to ponder over. Oh, anyways, we have Mangus fire up the stage. It's time to shake off the cobwebs and kick some ass.
Mangus, are you on the board?
Too early, man.
Take a look down here. It's later than you think.
They've got all kinds of weird units, from standard depressed gravediggers to ghost brides to whatever these things are called. Despite fending off the Drowning Doom Vanguard, it looks as if things are about to take a turn for the worse.
Oh shit.
We spy a full Doom army coming over the pass. Just as our brave lads and lasses are preparing to go down fighting, the winter quiet is rent asunder by the sound of roaring twin-stroke engines.
I told you they'd be back!
Is this the outfit that murdered the general? Right then. Burn the other guys!
At long last, the much-vaunted Fire Barons make their appearance, and mercifully, it looks like they're on our side. With the Barons taking center stage, the battle commences in earnest. After fending off the eye-shadowed onslaught, Eddie takes a moment to inspect one of the fallen Drowning Doom soldiers and finds something distressing. Ophelia's crest.
Now do you see what she's capable of?
She has merchandise.
The leader of the Fire Barons, who's just called the Baron, and like General Lionwhite is voiced by Rob Halford, fills us in on what's been going on. Diviculus has opened up the way to the Sea of Black Tears, which is what led to this plague of mopey monstrosities roaming the lands. It seems as if the evil Emperor's plan is to let the two human factions wipe each other out, just as the Coil did long ago.
It's time to get out of here.
But where are we gonna run to?
To the Sea of Black Tears.
That's suicide!
Can we come?
I'm gonna go do a little solo recon. When I find a way to get the bus over the gorge, I'll give you a buzz.
Hey, no rush.
Before we can make our way towards the sea, however, we've got a massive gorge to cross.
Think you guys could jump the gorge in your bikes?
We're more into the low and slow, if you catch my drift.
And luckily, there's even a bridge. Unluckily, there's a big chunk of it missing. Seems like it's time to bust out the relic razor.
Hey Mangus, come here, you gotta check out this bridge I built. Yeah, you see Mangus? Those guys from yore really understood the value of craftsmanship.
And look, people are using it already.
Just as we're getting underway, though, a mysterious figure appears to bar our path. And they look kind of familiar, don't they? Oh dear. It's Ophelia, and she is looking a little different than the last time we saw her. Eddie is, of course, distraught at her new appearance in Allegiance, warning her that Diviculus is just using her as a proxy to crush the Ironhead Rebellion. However, Ophelia is less than interested in hearing anything Eddie has to say. Busting out her own solo, she topples down the bridge that we just took the trouble to erect. Still, nothing that a dose of that trademark Eddie Riggs roadie ingenuity can't solve.
And you also taught me the power of music. Here's a little song that I've been dying to play.
Well, so much for driving to our deaths at the Sea of Black Tears.
No, I can fix this. But it's gonna take about 5,000 cubic buttloads of scaffolding to do it.
With Lita riding shotgun, it's back to Bladehenge to requisition supplies. Upon returning to our former HQ, we find to our dismay that the Tainted Coil have moved in during our absence. And things are looking a bit more evil than they used to. The old henge has been completely S&Mified, all decked out in leather and spikes. Not that I think this game is trying to kink-shame or anything. Anyways, doing our best to remain out of sight, we skirt around the coil's outpost and find a handy grove of scaffolding trees, which we proceed to harvest and toss on top of the tour bus.
There's the stuff.
The cubic buttload?
Yeah, more or less.
Well, let's call Mangus so we can get out of here.
Okay, it's all loaded up.
Now it's time to
Please get out of here before someone... notices us?
Oh joy. We have another escort mission on our hands. Man, this game really likes those. I think there are just about as many escort drives as there are set-piece battles. I wonder where this leads. Hopefully out of reach of the Emperor's forces. With the bridge repaired, Eddie leads Ironhead across the gorge into lands unknown.
Dude, you know I love the pyro, but from now on we gotta be a little more stealthy. We're trying to surprise Ophelia, remember?
Hey, man, it's okay. We made it. You gotta chill out. What the hell was that?
You don't want to know.
Now that we've crossed the chasm, we're progressing from wide open fields into dense jungles, and from there, who knows what. We set up camp, and Eddie ventures off to figure out what to do next. Also, just as an aside, this area has my favorite species of endemic wildlife in the entire game. Laser panthers.
Okay, I got a plan.
Burn him?
No.
Run him over with the bus?
No.
Poison catnip?
Before we continue on our way to the Sea of Black Tears, Eddie decides that some new reinforcements are in order. And, as luck would have it, the perfect thing happens to be right in front of us. Fire-breathing metal beasts. With help from Lita and the Baron, Eddie concocts a plan to tame the creatures, which is probably the most irritating mission in the entire game. We have to herd them to a very specific spot, and then use the Baron's bike to draw a very, very finicky circle of fire around them so that Lita can jump on their backs and stuff them in a cage. However, it's incredibly easy to get the metal beasts caught in the fire and accidentally kill them, which means we have to go and find another one, lead it back to the cage, and start the process all over again. It's a massive pain in the ass and takes way longer than it should.
You see? I knew they could be ridden.
I wasn't riding them, I was holding on for my life. There's no way to really ride these things.
Not true. The Zalia do it all the time.
Once we've finally captured enough of them, the Baron makes mention of a group called the Zalia. They're apparently locals who ride these metal beasts into battle decked out in Kiss makeup and not much else. It's here where we get our next celebrity cameo, the infamous Miss Lita Ford, former guitarist for the Runaways, who voices the leader of this group of Amazons, Rima. Alas, it seems the Zalia aren't especially interested in joining up with Ironhead, and so the crew are imprisoned atop a massive temple that also doubles as the world's biggest drum riser.
We're already an army, and you're not welcome to join it.
How are we getting out of here?
As ashes, I think.
Stay cool, everybody. Let me think.
Eddie busts out the Relic Razor, activating the temple and revealing a set of murals that depict some crucial events in the history of the Land of Metal. This impresses the Zalia, and in light of this new development, they elect to free us.
You?
No, that ain't me. That's my dad.
It turns out that the famed human warrior of old, Ragnarok, is actually Eddie's late father. Despite being the leader of the original Black Tier Rebellion, he was the only one to avoid being corrupted by the Dark Waters, and fought alongside the Zalia against the demons. This revelation causes Rima to change her tune and decide to join up with Ironhead.
Yeah, he gave me something too. I found this in his attic after he died. Apparently there's a lot about my dad I don't know. But it seems one thing I do know is that he, somehow, once fought at your side when your land was in danger.
So it turns out that there was no need for us to capture the fire-breathing metal beasts anyway. Before we advance the plot any further, let's dip back into the history books again so that we can get fully caught up before moving into the game's final act. Upon arriving in the future, Sikoria discovered to her horror that her people were nowhere to be found, and that humanity ruled the earth. This so dismayed her that she lost all will to live, drained of her demonic power and killer instinct. Rather than return in failure, she released her slaves and crawled into a cave to die alone. Ragnarok, seeing his chance, followed her with the intent to end her life once and for all. But when he saw how weak and pitiful she had become, he took pity upon her and nursed her back to health. Eventually, they became companions, then friends, and finally, lovers. From this union, a child was born. Sikoria died in childbirth, and Ragnarok left with the half-demon, half-human child, raising him in the age of modern man, yet never told him of his forbidden parentage. Years later, after Ragnarok's passing, one day the child, now grown into a man, the very image of his father, found his mother's idol hidden in the attic of their house. Mistaking the idol's purpose, he took it as a belt buckle. Despite not knowing the history behind his birth, something in his blood called to him. And so he became the world's greatest roadie, working to support the music of the Titans in the modern world. And this this is where we come in. So, now you know the history of the Lands of Metal and how things came to be as they were when we arrived there. Do you see why I say that it would have been super useful to have all of this context to better understand the story and Eddie's place in it? Why I'm frustrated by the way that all this info is parceled out to the player? It's more or less crucial to understanding the story. Most of it is very missable, and all of it is optional. And thus, with all that revealed, it's back to the present. Or past, present. It's time to get a move on, is my point. Having recruited the Zalia and uncovered some startling revelations about both Eddie's past and the Land of Metal as a whole, we're once again ready to hit the trail. With our new Amazonian allies and their fire-breathing mounts, we pack up the crew and get on the road, heading out and down. Down into colder, darker climes. Normally, in spite of all my gamer instincts, I actually kind of enjoy the missions where you escort the bus. Blowing up the tick choppers and so on is really satisfying, and the tour bus is actually pretty sturdy. But this next ride is the first time in the game that I kinda wish I could have Eddie hop on the bus as well. There's one thing in gaming that makes me uncomfortable, it's the sensation of loneliness, and the place we're going brings that out in spades. Thankfully, we have a little company, as Rima lets us hop on her metal beast mount with her and take the flame-belching feline for a spin. The next stretch of road is distinctly unsettling. Nooses hang from trees. The sun is nowhere to be seen. Instead of the moon, there's just a giant, eerie skull floating in the sky. Everything is shrouded in mist, and there's this ever-present sensation that we're being watched by unfriendly eyes. Wherever we're going, it's not gonna be fun. We pass through a distinctly doom and gloomy swamp and arrive at the dry ice mines. This is not a happy place. While every good rock show benefits from some dry ice creating mist,
I need the fucking dry ice. My show just doesn't work without it.
there's got to be a more pleasant way to get it. After escaping the drowning doom forces that accosted us on the road, we set up camp at one end of the mines. Remember what I said about not feeling alone in unfriendly environments? Of course, the first thing that Eddie decides to do is go off and scout on his own. Having surveyed the terrain, it turns out that I was right. We're not alone after all. But not in a friendly way. Guess who calls this miserable place home? That's right. Ophelia and her emo army are back.
With a vengeance.
Before we throw down, she takes the time to regale us with her tale of woe. That explains where the Drowning Doom got its name, and now she's acquired a stage of her own. Let's get ours set up and rock the dry ice mines.
He's here?
Nah, she's gone. But I do see something dangerous.
Eddie co-opted some mining equipment to create Ironhead's biggest, baddest unit, the Rock Crusher. And then it's off to kick down the Coil's front door.
Alright, caravan time.
You ready to die?
Jeez, man, I'm freaked out enough already. Do you have to talk like that?
Sorry, just trying to get you in the mood. For death.
Which is waiting for us down the road. Let's hit it!
Oh, man.
One final chase sequence ensues. Pursued by Ophelia's Reapers on their bony steeds, the Ironhead crew rocks up outside the entrance to the Sea of Black Tears itself. Man, this place is depressing. No wonder the Drowning Doom like it around here. All throughout the game, when we're just roaming around, we can come across friendly and enemy patrols doing battle. In the area around Bladehedge and Battersmith, in the early part of the story, it's Lionwhite's hair metal militia. After drowned Ophelia reveals herself, we start running into Drowning Doom forces. And after defeating her and making it to the Sea of Black Tears, Tainted Coil units begin to show up. It's a minor detail, but it does help tie the narrative to the state of the world at large. And speaking of, Ophelia arrives on some sort of gothy dirigible to roll out the welcome wagon. After a brief skirmish at the gates, she lays some hard truths on us, namely that Eddie isn't the first time traveler to journey to and from the Land of Metal.
In the future, this is referred to as getting served.
You think you're the only time traveler this world has known? The demons beat you to it long ago. They sent their own emperor into the future to take back the lost secrets of the Titans.
Probably just did that to escape getting whacked by my dad.
Oh no. I heard he went along for the ride.
Ah, don't run! I know where you live!
I know. I'll be waiting for you in the deep end.
So this is it, folks. End of the trail. That seemed kind of abrupt, didn't it? It feels like we should only be halfway through the game, and yet here we are butting up against the final battle. The gate lowers and we progress into the massive cave containing the Sea of Black Tears itself.
Through the woods, a girl came sadly. Something broken in her chest. She had dared to love another. Alas, no better than the rest. Up my path, the girl came gladly. Something opened up my doors. I longed to stop her bleeding heart, and so I called her to my shores. Those you trust will hurt you badly. Something now I'm sure you see.
Gladly, everyone.
So drown your tears in me, my dear. As you drown, my dear, in me.
So there it is. The Sea of Black Tears.
Huh, it's really more of a lake of black tears, isn't it?
If what she said is true, if Ragnarok went forward in time with the Emperor...
Then so what? Obviously that was part of my old man's plan, because in the future there aren't too many demonic Emperor overlords walking around. Except at record companies.
I just don't think it's a good idea anymore, for you to fight Ophelia. Are you sure you want to go through with it?
Definitely. Hey, let's get set up for one last show.
Yeah, one last show. What if Lars could see us now, eh, Eddie? He wouldn't be surprised, really. He always said you'd lead us to a better life. You've done so much for us. Never gotten much credit, or even time to rest. And you know, we've never had much time to get to know each other, not really. Have you ever wondered, Eddie, what if... Nah, don't sweat it. I'll take care of this one.
Well, nothing for it, I guess. Just about time to end this. Before we do, however, we get a little bit of a glimpse into Eddie's subconscious. After one last battle, in which we end the Drowning Doom for good and all, we manage to corner Ophelia.
I'm gonna finish my father's mission and kill the Emperor. Don't make me kill you too.
Are you forgetting that the Emperor and your father were traveling companions?
Yeah, the Emperor and my dad went to the future. But then the Emperor came back here, ironically, just to be killed by me.
The Emperor never came back.
What? I've seen him. You were with me when we saw Emperor Diviculus, remember?
What? You think Diviculus, you think he was the Emperor back then? Poor boy.
She sets Eddie straight about a couple of things, and once again flies away. Looks like there's only one thing left to do. Put Diviculus and the coil down for good. Or so it would seem. But first we've got a little bit of an exposition dump, courtesy of Ophelia and Diviculus.
Lita?
I want to go up there and end this myself. But I just feel like I don't have the stomach for it anymore.
Some people can run on vengeance forever, but not you. You're a leader. A hero. Just like Lars.
And you?
I'm not going up there for vengeance.
What are you going up there for?
I'm just cleaning up a mess.
How do we stop this, Ophelia?
One of us has to die.
Okay. I nominate the person who sold us out to the demons.
You're right. Better you than me.
Please do not stop. You two have been having such an entertaining war.
I see you called in your boyfriend for help. Eh, Sikoria?
No, wait. Sikoria?
Sikoria? This girl? This sad, human girl?
As we've learned, our boy Eddie was wrong about almost entirely everything. Dark Ophelia is not Sikoria. Ragnarok did not follow her into the future to slay her. Even Eddie isn't quite what he seems. Man, it would have been nice to have, I don't know, any of this explained with more clarity and detail a bit earlier, because up until now, unless you've been diligent about tracking down every single hidden lore stone, the plot is just confusing as all hell.
I thought she had failed.
What are you talking about? She did fail. My father killed her, right? She's never coming back.
That's not exactly what your father did to her. Thank you, son of Sikoria, for completing your mother's mission, for teaching us the secrets of the Titans, and ensuring our rule over this land forever.
But you said...
That I smelled her blood in the temple. I did, just as I can smell it now. Coursing through your veins. Why are you acting so surprised? You're wearing her shirt. You're wielding her axe. Now, we may finally crush this Black Tier rebellion forever. Starting like we did the last time. By tearing out its heart.
Ophelia!
With the truth finally revealed, Diviculus whips out his own axe and presents us with one whopper of an obstacle.
Oh, please. That was nothing compared to what you did to her.
A gigantic Black Tier cathedral monster. Oh boy. That does not look good.
How'd it go?
Things may not have been quite as over as we thought, but that doesn't mean we can't bring our forces to bear and drop the curtain on the tainted coil.
Your mother refused my advances all those years ago. Because at least I know you're not my son. There aren't many who can say that.
one was for Lars!
Oh, give it up. Whatever victories your demon blood grants you will soon be unraveled by your human weakness. Come and see me when you grow a pair as big as your mother's.
Using everything we've learned over the course of our adventure, the axe, the other axe, the car, and the army, we take down the evil Emperor's pet building. Diviculus, beaten but not quite finished, retreats inside what's left of the massive structure. Time for one final, honest-to-goodness boss fight. Really this time. Promise.
Son of Sakoria, suckled by the dry teat of man. You are half so many things, I doubt any part of you is whole. Is there even a word for a creature such as you?
Yeah, I'm a roadie. I keep the trash off the stage.
Despite ample assistance from his various minions, there's very little the Emperor can do to stave off the wrath of a master roadie many times wronged. In a callback to the beginning of the game, and with a brutal, legendary battle cry, Eddie relieves Diviculus of his head.
Decapitation!
So saying, or roaring as it were, he retrieves drowned Ophelia's heart from Diviculus's pop-open chest, which returns to its original form as the necklace that Eddie gave her. The giant monster begins to collapse into the sea of black tears, and oh no! It seems like it might take Eddie down with it. He finds himself being dragged into the deep, much the same as Ophelia was, but luckily, that's just where he wants to go. He finds her at the bottom, and just as it looks like both of them are about to escape, the sea itself makes it clear that it has other ideas. This time, however, it's Ophelia's turn to rescue Eddie. The two lovebirds swim to the surface in an unsuitably touching moment, only slightly undercut by the fact that they're still in the middle of this giant, terrifying cavern surrounded by the Ironhead army. It seems the two of them are finally able to have a moment to themselves. After a fade to black, we return to Bladehenge, where the party is in full swing. In addition to celebrating Ironhead's victory over the forces of Doom and the Coil, it serves as a memorial for Lars. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think that they were going to be lauding Eddie here? He's a roadie, remember? Sure, he gets things done, but it's his job to make sure that other people look good.
When Lars Halford fell, the cause seemed lost. But it survived, because there was another great warrior in our midst. Let us not forget the sacrifice and bravery of Lita Halford, everybody!
Lars may be gone, but Ironhead is not leaderless. Nor is it Lita-less. After a touching eulogy from Mittens, Lita steps up to deliver a speech and take her rightful place as the new leader of Ironhead.
That we can stand together. I hope we can all stand together. For the honor of Bladehenge, for the freedom of its people, and for the glory of its metal!
And what of our boy, Eddie? Well, he may not be front and center, but it doesn't mean he doesn't get his own happy ending.
Hey, man. You're missing the party.
Oh, yeah. You know, I'm more comfortable back here.
Yeah. Oh, here. I got something for you.
Aw, Mangus, you didn't have to get me. Hey, wait. This is my tour book.
Yeah, I swiped it.
And it seems you wrote on it.
Well, I wanted to leave you a little note, and then some of the other guys wanted to sign it for you.
Don't forget about us, man.
Dudes, I'm not going away. I just got a couple errands to run. I'll be right back.
You better. I'm not doing the loadout by myself.
You don't have to do the loadout at all. We're staying here for good.
The tour's over?
Yeah, man. Tour's over. We're home now. A good roadie knows his whole job is to make someone else look good, keep someone else safe, help someone else do what they were put here to do. A good roadie stays out of the spotlight. If he's doing his job right, you don't even know he's there. Once in a while, he might step on stage just to fix a problem, to set something right. But then before you even realize he was there, or what he did, he's gone.
As he drives off into the sunset, we get one last look at Ophelia, teasing the DLC or sequel that would never come. And that's it. That's Brütal Legend. The ending may have been a bit abrupt, and the time travel stuff was more than a little confusing. Even as I was writing this, I had to look up a story summary of my own, just to make sure I was giving you all correct information. But there are some things about it you can't deny are awesome. All in all, despite its confusing story and frequently frustrating gameplay, I still dig Brütal Legend. It's a fun, quirky mess of a game, and while it often seems a bit perplexed about its identity, much like its main cast, it's got real heart. Plus, you can't deny just how badass the visual design of the world, and characters, is. The vocal performances are pretty stellar too, as is the soundtrack, both original and licensed. As I said in my Dark Messiah review, I don't really believe in doing numbered scores, so instead I'll just say that if anything that you've seen in this video piqued your interest, maybe pick this one up on sale and give it a try. If you can look past the flaws, it really is worth your time, I promise. And that, as they say, is a wrap. As always, thank you so much for lending me your time and attention. If you enjoyed the video, a like is greatly appreciated, a comment even more so, and a subscription most of all. It takes just a second for you, but it's vital to the survival of small channels like mine. If you do subscribe, don't forget to ring the bell so you get updates. More info will be available in the description should you desire it. Take care until next time. This is November Bravo. Over.